Hi, friends. I'm Andy Paul, host of Selling with Purpose, and I want to encourage you to join the tens of thousands of listeners who tune in each week to the Sales Enablement Podcast with Andy Paul. With more than 780 episodes to date of candid conversations with the world's most exciting revenue leaders, the Sales Enablement Podcast explores critical insights, skills, and technologies that enable sales performance. So tune in to hear inspiring conversations I have with the world's best and brightest sales experts, such as Dan Pink, Keenan, Tiffany Bova, Jeb Blunt, Jeffrey Gittimer, and so many more. Each week we publish 3 new episodes, all part of my mission to enable you to exceed customer expectations and win more deals. So be sure to subscribe to Sales Enablement with Andy Paul on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. No matter where your sales team is working from, RingDNA can enable them to be more productive and effective. RingDNA offers a complete platform for remote sales teams that gives reps the tools they need to connect with more prospects and create more opportunities and drive more revenue no matter where they're working from. And managers can get real-time insight they need to coach reps to success. Win more deals from anywhere on the planet with RingDNA. Learn more about how RingDNA helps remote teams at ringdna.com/remote work. That's ringdna.com/remote work.
New alarm bells ringing tonight on the coronavirus outbreak in this country.
Doctors say the virus is spread through droplets when someone coughs or sneezes.
And I think the business community, it's in their interest that people actually stay home and stop the spread.
For a business that can allow more employees to telecommute, we want you to do that.
In these times, what does it mean to sell with purpose? How can you bring intention to every sales conversation, no matter what you're selling? What if success doesn't mean just one more closed sale, but one more life saved? Hi, friends. I'm Andy Paul, host of the Sales Enablement Podcast, and this is Selling with Purpose, a special 6-part series of inspiring conversations exploring what it means to sell with a mission greater than just hitting your numbers in the era of COVID-19 and beyond. Tune in to hear from world-class enterprise sales leaders and learn how their 6 companies will close $50 billion selling remotely. See how they've supported essential workers with the products and services they need to stay safe and thrive during this time of crisis. A special thank you to our guests and their incredible companies, Sodexo, Henry Schein, Gordon Food Services, NFP, Stanley Security, and CDK for allowing us to share their stories. All right, let's get into it. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
You're an experienced podcaster yourself, I understand, because you got an internal podcast that you use for your sales team.
I don't know if I would describe it as experienced, but yes, we've started an internal podcast for our sales team about a month ago. So I'm getting more experienced, I guess you could say.
Well, I think and so you started it in response to, I imagine, to the COVID crisis, so people starting to work from home and so on. So what do you use your podcast for?
Yeah, so it's interesting that our sales team challenged us with, at first we started a lot of webinars and updating them on, we're in the food service industry, so
right.
Selling to restaurants and such. And there's a lot of updates on supply chain products, regulations for our restaurants and sanitation, just so many things, because that industry was just hit real hard. So we had a lot to communicate to our sales team, and the webinars were just too long. They weren't hitting them at the right time, and they wanted something that they could listen to at their own rate, at their own leisure when they wanted to. And so we just decided to try the podcast route, and the feedback has been great. We're like 80% of them of our salespeople are listening to them. So
Perfect.
we're gonna keep continuing it until they stop listening. How about that?
Well, either that or keep going to get 100% compliance and everybody's listening to it, or make sure they all listen to this podcast. That'd be good too. So Gordon Food Service, you sell food and beverages to, everywhere, anybody that serves food, basically, right? So I imagine that when the shutdown started, it was a pretty dramatic change for you guys with restaurants, specifically restaurants, going to zero.
Yeah, think about this, Andy, is we literally had our industry shut down overnight. And I know a lot of industries have felt the pain, but when restaurants were shut down and states started closing, that's it. That's all they had. They still could serve some to go and some takeout and delivery, but our business almost dropped. The food service industry dropped almost 50% overnight. Now, we do have a lot of business with healthcares and hospitals, so those elevated, those ramped up, but they got more difficult to deal with because of all regulations. And you can't just walk in with a cart of food to a hospital anymore. So those got more complicated. Schools shut down as well. So our business literally fell over 50% overnight across the whole industry.
So how big of a company is Gordon Food Service?
We have we have about 1,000 sellers across the U.S. and probably another 300 or so from across the Canada. We do well over 10 billion in sales in North America.
Wow. So 1,000 sellers, are these traditionally people that are field based? I mean, do you have route drivers that are selling as well, or is it an independent sales force?
Yeah, it's a street-based sales force. Our drivers just deliver the food. So our salespeople, acquire new business. They grow existing accounts. They're customer service agents. They take care of problems. They take orders themselves directly from the restaurants. We do a lot digitally, right? Half of our orders are processed digitally. So they're kind of jack of all trades, and it's a very belly to belly selling. We call it. You're in the restaurant, you're having conversations with the owner, the chef, and you're like I said, actually taking orders directly from them. So they do a little bit of everything. And man, when things were shut down, you couldn't leave your home. That was a big change for our sellers.
Yeah, I can imagine they were probably chomping at the bit to get out there. So how'd that transition go for you?
Oh, well, that was tough. We had to do some really quick training on how to adjust, I guess you could say, selling virtually. Now, remember, a good chunk of the customers were closed. So a good chunk of the business just kind of went away. But so we had to immediately start training how to do a little bit more virtual selling, a little bit more phone selling. Like I mentioned, though, half of our orders were processed digitally anyway. So we really pushed on our customers to say, I can't see you. I can tell you over the phone. How would you like to place your order digitally? So we really ramped up making sure our sellers were well-versed in our, ordering online platform. And that was our big push. So we really had to do a lot of training and adjustment.
So as they look at now, I guess the first question is were your sellers, are they divided by, so I'm a restaurant, I'm a food service person, I'm a hospital, schools person. Are they divided that way, or they cover all accounts?
Yeah, we have them segmented based off really two concepts. One is the commercial, what we call, and that's the restaurants, the hotels, all that kind of stuff. And then the non-commercial group, they handle the healthcares, hospitals, government stuff. And that way they become specialized in those particular areas. Even the education is broken off into its own segment. And then, we service some national chains, and they're in their own segment. So we run them specialized in that segment. So we do have that broken up that way.
So imagine for the people that were servicing the restaurant customers, I mean, they pretty much came to a complete halt.
Yeah. Depending on where you're at, what state you're in, every state had different laws, and every state was more strict than others. Some saw a drop off of almost 80% in sales. Some were a little bit more,
at least.
Yeah, some were a little bit more loose and continued to operate. It's funny, our salespeople in Texas said, "Yeah, we were shut down, but it's Texas, so we do whatever we want, right?" So some were still operating.
That's the problem, right?
Right. Some still were operating rogue. But it was a huge adjustment if you have all of your sales pretty much shut down. So one of the things that we did is we tried to shift our accounts we were targeting, and the retail segment, or the grocery stores, saw their business quadruple overnight. In fact, they couldn't even handle it. So we started to reach out to a lot of retail establishments and say, hey, do you need, you can't get the stuff from your own supply chain. How can we help you? And it was it was a real big shift in our industry to say, well, with restaurants shut down, we're going to go help the retail sector and the retail segment.
So compete against the Cisco's of the world and all those big distributors.
Yeah, the Cisco's there are competitors, and they did the same thing, right? They shifted to the retail or grocery area as well. You just try to beat them to the punch, right? Because it's really the first person that calls or they hook up with, they start doing business with. So we immediately started, prospecting for the retail sector and even tried to find a way to small markets too, right? Independent little stores, mom and pops, anything that had to do with retail that was selling food because they were running out of food.
Now, was this selling, unprocessed foods, or did you also carry like brand name, processed foods that you could sell to groceries?
Yeah, it was both. Mostly what they were looking for from a grocery standpoint was the protein items, the chickens, the beefs, the porks, and even eggs. So that's really what they were in dire need of because that's what people were stockpiling. We ran out of the toilet paper and the gloves. In fact, we had to kind of protect some of that stuff from our hospitals and the frontline workers because that was the priority.
So you're selling supplies as well as food products.
Think about this. Anything a restaurant needs, we have for them.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
So as things start to open up now in certain states, well, in all states, so in California, New York, we're starting to see some openings up and down the West Coast. So what are your people sort of doing now in terms of what's sort of the protocol to go out and visit a restaurant? I imagine that's sort of been mandated as well.
Yeah, there's most of our restaurants obviously require you to wear a mask if you're to come in. So we're making sure we've got to make sure our sellers are well aware of the environment they're walking into. If they want to take your temperature, that gets a little dicey, right? So we got to just be mindful of that stuff. But our salespeople, if they want us to wear a mask when we walk in, then we should wear a mask, just like their employees do. And we're really trying to, more importantly, arm them with the right conversations they should be having with their customers, because consumer confidence is the number one thing right now that any restaurateur should be focused on. Is what does the customer perceive as their restaurant? Is it clean? Are the employees wearing masks and wearing gloves? You're going to make sure this place is ready to go before you go eat there. So we're making sure our sellers are having these conversations with our customers. Hey, do you have the right chemicals in place? Do you have masks? Do you have gloves? Do you have sanitation stations? And if not, we can help you with that. In fact, we can consult on that. I just want to make sure that you're ready to open and that you're going to not only survive, but thrive in this environment.
Yeah, I was seeing something yesterday about online about this company in France, and I was thinking about this in the context of our conversation today. Was designing these sort of plexiglass surroundings for individual diners at a table that basically come down from the ceiling. So if you have 4 people at a table, 4 of these things would come down, and basically it's like you're in this little bubble, except for where your hands and plates sit in front of you.
Yeah, we've been watching, what's happened in some of the Asian countries, post COVID, because it's you could say they're 10 to 12 weeks ahead of us in this environment. And what have their restaurants done? Because they could tell us a little bit of what ours are going to look like. And I've seen some where it's plexiglass everywhere. You're almost like in a fishbowl, sitting in and eating in a restaurant. And some restaurants requiring people to wear masks, and you can only take them off when you eat. So we're seeing all kinds of things from that, and we're just trying to figure out where it's going to land here in the U.S. But really, it's state by state, and we're just trying to make sure our sellers are informed of what the rules are in their state, so that they're well aware of it.
Yeah, interesting sort of transition. So how do you as an organization? And I know you talked about pivoting to the grocery stores, but yeah, how do you keep people motivated? How do you keep morale high when there's nothing to sell?
Oh boy, this is where I wish I had my magic wand. it's tough because when you lose or when your sales are reduced half overnight, you really it hurts with that motivation factor. How do you keep your eyes on the prize? How do you keep pursuing new business, knowing that, oh my gosh, my sales have declined by half? So what we're just trying to get the sales team focused on is this idea that we're gonna come out of this. The restaurant industry is resilient. It's one of the largest economic factors in the country. Are you prepared for when it comes out of it? Because you can either go one way or the other. As if you're still making contacts with customers and working the retail sector, when things are going to all be said and done, you can increase your compensation and your commissions are going to be flourishing in this. Versus if you kind of sit down and put your head in your knees and say, "Woe is me," and this is not going to work, and we're never going to come back from it. You're not going to be in a position to grow on the other side of it. So we're really trying to make sure that our sales team is focused on the right accounts. In fact, we created a little thing for our sellers that defines what good looks like, and we're pulling out certain restaurants that are really going to be busy on the outcome of this. In fact,
such as
examples is their menu designed to go, right? Can it be delivered by a DoorDash or something like that? Does it fit in a container and travel really well? Because restaurants, 30 to 40% of their sales after this is all said and done is still going to be done in delivery and takeout. So quick serve restaurants are really thriving during this time. How are we making sure that we're pursuing those? And buffets they're just getting hammered right now. Yeah, you could basically say that. I was in an area that has tons of buffets, a big touristy area, a couple of weekends ago, and literally there was 2 cars in these parking lots that hold thousands, right? Whereas the taco joint down the street that has, it's a shack, literally had a line around the door. So we're making sure our sellers are focused on the right accounts. We're calling it defining what good looks like, and making sure that they're spending the time with the right accounts, and they have prioritization because they're busy. They're going to be busy taking care of customers and getting people back reopened. Who do you spend that time with? So our focus has really been on the prioritization.
Well, because you for your sellers, and your sellers sort of have to make a tough judgment, which is who is coming back. Mm-hmm. Because certainly you've seen the projections. 40% of restaurants probably that have closed may never come back in their current form with the current owners.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's all kinds of numbers floating around out there, and you could say it's 30 to 40% of restaurants won't even come back out of this. There's even going to be a next wave. Like there's a lot of restaurants that were just closed this time period, and now they're going to open back up. And there's going to be another wave of restaurants that aren't going to be able to survive this because their clienteles aren't ready to come out. We've seen some data that says that the baby boomer generation is really hesitant to come back out, and in fact, they might not even come back into the restaurants until 6 months after the state opens up or eases restrictions. So that's another restaurant that could go 6 months without their main clientele if that's your main clientele. So there's even more closures to come.
Guided selling from Ring DNA makes your entire sales team more effective by revealing exactly what reps should do and when to do it. Guided selling works by transforming sales data into a curated list of prioritized sales actions. So when reps start their day, they'll never again wonder which prospects and accounts or hot inbound leads to reach out to next. Guided selling even shifts reps' priority in response to real-time buying signals. Finally, even new reps can sell like seasoned ones. Let RingDNA be your guide to success. Learn more at ringdna.com/guided selling. That's ringdna.com/guided selling. Hi, friends. I'm Andy Paul, host of Selling with Purpose, and I want to encourage you to join the tens of thousands of listeners who tune in each week to the Sales Enablement Podcast with Andy Paul. With more than 780 episodes to date of candid conversations with the world's most exciting revenue leaders, the Sales Enablement Podcast explores critical insights, skills, and technologies that enable sales performance. So tune in to hear inspiring conversations I have with the world's best and brightest sales experts, such as Dan Pink, Keenan, Tiffany Bova, Jeb Blunt, Jeffrey Gittimer, and so many more. Each week we publish 3 new episodes, all part of my mission to enable you to exceed customer expectations and win more deals. So be sure to subscribe to Sales Enablement with Andy Paul on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Well, if there's another wave of infection that shuts down restaurants again, I mean, that's...
Yeah, we call it thrivability. It's funny. I didn't even know that was a word before all this happened, but we're calling these accounts high on our thrivability scale because not only will they survive and grow post pandemic, but if it were to come around again, or an economic recession happens, which is possible as well.
Well, it is.
It is more than likely.
It happens. Yeah.
That we're still aligned with the accounts, the restaurants that are they're going to grow through this and be okay.
Yeah, it's a really interesting targeting challenge for reps, and you can just imagine sort of the ups and downs because, as you said, there could be a second wave of restaurant closures, which. Yeah, a lot of people anticipate a second spike, at least one more spike of infections, which could cause another wave of closures of restaurants. You think about selling in that environment. It's a real interesting challenge, right? Is because you're thinking, I still have a job. I still have some customers, but it really is almost until the vaccine comes out that they can sort of get back to normal.
Yeah, I guess it's when you look at our sellers and the time they have, their routes, they could spend a lot of time with the wrong customers, I guess you could say. And if you don't have that prioritization or you don't have that clear understanding of where I should be dedicating my time with the right customers that are growing or they're going to be set to grow, then you can really get lost in some pretty bad activities, I would say.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of your restaurateur customers that just want to have somebody to talk to.
Well, there's also some big supply chain disruption as well, right? You've probably heard all over the news of, the protein markets are crazy and beef plants closing down and all that kind of stuff. So, we're also just trying to make sure that the customers have product. And like I said, you could spend so much time on, you want to take care of all your customers, but not all are created equal. And it needs to be very targeted. And with the ones that you do have time with, what is your purpose with them?
So is there a chance that in that situation then that you're sort of saying, if we lose some of these, I don't call it lower end necessarily, but lower end customers, that's okay for now?
Yeah, I mean, it's you never want to say it, but it kind of is because there's even a chance that they won't even survive either. Mm-hmm. Or do you look at just moving them to a different channel? That's also another consideration to say.
Just purely online.
It could be, yeah. That it's always something to think about. I know there's a lot of organizations that have inside sales models as well. Mm-hmm. Is that an option somewhere down the road?
Are you guys looking at that?
It's on the whiteboard. Like I said, we've been an organization that's been highly, the belly to belly. Our industry in general is just that face to face selling. Mm-hmm. But I think that even our competitors are considering some of that as well. So I'd say it's on the whiteboard.
Yeah, I would think that given sort of the range of institutions you deal with, that it makes sense for a number of them. Either, say, hey, your option is to go online and have a good success and customer service experience, or maybe inside sales.
It would just be a big change for the customers. They're used to having that salesperson, right? That live interaction and that conversation. So it would be a change for them, and there would be some setting expectations in my mind of, hey, this is kind of how we're going to do business. But I think if there's any time to do it, it's now, because there's an understanding. Our whole industry is under consolidation, and it's just not like it'd be our company doing it. The competitors would be doing it as well. So if you're going to do something like that, I would say now would be the time.
Yeah, before all your competition jumps into it. I mean, at a restaurant, it's sort of interesting from a competitive standpoint. Then is so when your sellers go into a restaurant, we'll start with restaurants specifically. Is like, what is the value proposition for dealing with Gordon versus a competitor?
Well, I'm going to throw an old cliche out here, Andy, and say it's our people or the value proposition. But it really, I say that jokingly, but I really mean that too, because what we try to make sure our salespeople do is they're delivering insights and delivering valued information and helping our customers sift through all the information into what's important for their operation.
So give us an example of the insights. I mean, you have industry data that you're passing along, or what's that?
Yeah, that's exactly. So one of the things that we're really trying to focus on with our customers is reducing and streamlining their menu. So restaurants are having a hard time with labor right now, getting people back to work from the unemployment, right? You can make more money on unemployment than coming to work. So they're just like, I'm not coming back, or just not answering the phone. So they're really struggling from a labor standpoint. So what we're trying to talk to our customers about is you don't have a lot of people in the kitchen anymore. So you need to reduce your menu, the size of it, the number of products you service or offer, as well as you need to reduce the high labor intensive items, a lot of scratch from stuff. And can we help you with some of those products that reduce that scratch, right? Pre-cooked items, pre-breaded items, stuff like that you don't have to create a soup base that's already a base that we have. We don't have to make it from scratch. So we're really trying to have that conversation with customers. And that's one of our biggest insights is let us help you with that, because your world isn't what it was, versus just coming in and saying, what do you need this week?
Yeah, I imagine those conversations, haven't happened, or excuse me, it didn't start happening just because of the COVID crisis. So you can see across the board, if you're trying to keep your costs in line, some of those things are pretty important. Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't having a streamlined menu, having we call it a portable menu, right? It travels really well in the container, doesn't get soggy. Like that just wasn't that big of a deal pre-pandemic. It was a nice to have. Delivery wasn't that big of an outlet for our customers. They did maybe 10% of their sales were takeout. Well, now all of a sudden that is completely changed. And if your menu, your products don't travel well in a container, or it's not fit to go, or you don't have a delivery partner, you're out in the cold.
Yeah. No one likes the the soggy entree when it shows up.
Right. It's French fries is one of those things. It's we tell customers all the time that French fries just aren't going to travel well. So use a thicker potato wedge. The thicker the item, the more it holds its crispiness. So there you go. The little nugget of information for you. Well,
also, it seems like you have to have like vent holes in the container, right? I don't know how that works with the sanitation, but right, it's you put French fries in a takeaway container, you're basically steaming them for the duration of the delivery.
You're exactly right. They need to be vented, and that's a whole nother conversation. Is there's tons of to-go container, I guess you could say, innovation out there, from reheatable containers to vented. I mean, you can go the cheap route, right, and use the really crummy foam container that's bad for the environment and that's not vented, but you're going to save some money, versus use a high-end one that your product will be delivered to the customer almost tasting like it came right out of the fryer or the oven, but it's going to cost you more. And that's that other component that we're trying to talk to customers about, is your packaging can make a difference. Does it have your logo on it? How to create a brand for yourself. And those are some more of those insights that we're trying to deliver.
Yeah, almost like you have to train your sellers to have sort of a graphic background as well to help design those things.
Yeah, or just, I've seen customers as simple as just making a stamp and stamping your logo on a paper bag, right? That's better than a plain brown paper bag.
Yeah, I agree. I was just commenting on that last week. My wife and I were out for a walk here in Manhattan, and somebody was walking away from a restaurant, and the restaurant, had a printed bag, and it's like, well, that caught my eye, made a difference.
Yeah, branding is everything, especially when it comes to the takeout and the all that's going on with that. So we highly recommend our customers that you really need to brand yourself, especially now in this time. So as well as the online presence, or your online reviews and what people are saying about you, that is just as important.
Now, do you have a service that helps people with their social media presence?
We do. We have a couple of third-party services that we partner up with that can help customers with that. and even monitor it for them, right?
For reputation control, right?
Right. A lot of our restaurants just don't have that marketing arm, right? They're mom and pops or independents. And we try to look from everything from helping them control their food costs to helping them with their menu design, social media presence, even finding a third-party delivery partner. We have all those things that we try to help our customers with.
Well, it sounds like you guys should get into the mask business because, at least in California, the regulation is that you have to wear a mask to enter a restaurant and have it on everywhere but at the table. Like you get up to go to the restroom, you have to put your mask back on and so on. So it seems like you should make branded masks for each restaurant that they have an extra pile by the front door. Sort of like in the old days where you had to have a blazer on to go into certain restaurants. We got a mask for you.
It's funny, we've seen that with a lot of our restaurants. I've seen it with a lot of national chains. They're actually trying to have fun with the masks a little bit, right? So, everybody knows Frisch's Big Boy, right? Well, they're putting masks on their Big Boy in all their restaurants and stuff like that, and branded masks and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to watch restaurants try to have a little bit of fun with that.
Well, I hope they can, because it certainly hasn't been fun the past several months, and it's going to be tough for a while because if they're constrained to 25% capacity, and as they are in many states, it's still going to be tough for a little bit. So, yeah. Well, good luck to your sellers in that. And so if people want to find out more about Gordon Food Service or connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, www.gfs.com. So pretty simple to remember that. Whether you're a restaurant and you want to become a customer, or you just want to learn more about it as an organization, we also have our Gordon Food Service stores, over 130 of them, mostly in the Midwest and Florida. But you can pick up food service items into our retail establishments as well. So if you're looking to still stockpile food, hit one of our retail outlets.
Only if you have toilet paper.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we do. I think we're well stocked in it now, as well as many other protein items. So
your stores are like in California. They have the Smart and Final stores. Is sort of like that.
Very similar to that. Yeah, okay. It's basically a way to get bulk food and to get a lot of what we sell directly to the restaurants. It was made as a backup to our restaurants, and the public part of it just really took it off. So.
Cool.
Great place to get anything you need for a party as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, Patrick, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
RingDNA is the leading sales enablement platform that uses AI to help scale business growth. Trusted by the top companies across the globe, RingDNA offers a suite of powerful tools for every sales role. The RingDNA Dialer radically improves sales productivity and call connection rates, while guided selling helps reps know exactly what to do and when to do it. Conversation AI uses artificial intelligence to surface the most impactful coaching opportunities in real time. So, no matter where your team is working from, the RingDNA platform can help them exponentially increase call connections, opportunities, and revenue. Learn more at ringdna.com/platform. That's ringdna.com/platform.